Cool.
I was very happy. My favorite drinking hole was mostly left unharmed at the Ocean Grill and Tiki Bar at Curie Beach. So that is the first thing that I look for as soon as the storm is over, is what kind of damage was done.
Is that the one that was on the old pier that was damaged?
No, they have their own pier. So this is I mean, it really doesn't reach too much into the water, but the Curie Beach pier was damaged, but not any of the stilts that hold it up, but more the railings that keep people from falling off. So they should be able to reopen pretty soon.
Hey, Dominic, we are live on Facebook, so anytime you want to start, we're good to go.
Thing. Am I able to share?
You should be.
Okay.
Dominic, your voice was pretty faint there.
Is it? Can you hear me now?
Better.
Okay. Oh, come on. All right, this is not working for me again this morning. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1 Million Cups RTP. Glad you could join us here this morning. After listening to everybody talking about their experiences down on the coast, I'm glad everybody is safe and not too terrible property damage, I hope, for everybody. So thank you all for being here. I know it's been a pretty rough week, but we're all here, and that's something to be thankful for. Like to welcome everybody watching on Facebook, as well as everybody in the room today, and let you know that 1 Million Cups is an organization that is dedicated to the promotion of economic development through entrepreneurship. We are powered by the Kauffman Foundation, and we meet every Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Couple of things about the organization is that we are an industry agnostic, non-pitch environment where the question that we ask is, what can we do as a community to help our entrepreneur presenters in getting to where they want to be with their business? The format is we have 1 to 2 presenters. It's a 6-minute presentation followed by 10 minutes of question and answer. We'll get to how we do that, the Q&A in the virtual format here in a moment. We want to welcome everybody to participate in our organization here at 1 Million Cups. A couple of ways that you can do that. One is that you can apply to present. If you have a business that you're working on that's within the first 5 years, you have some kind of new innovative idea, we'd love to have you have the opportunity to present it here. You can go to our website, which is www.1millioncups.com/RTP, and click the Apply to Present button. If you know anybody who is starting their own business, who would be interested in possibly presenting or could benefit from this format, please invite them to come join us so they can take a look, and maybe they would be, after joining us, they would see an opportunity in presenting. We also are always welcoming new volunteer organizers. This is an all volunteer organization, so a lot of the organizers that we have on the call here, we've got George, David, myself, Jim, Rosalinda, Tracy, who else is on here? I see Dan. okay. I feel like I'm romper room right now. But you know, we all do this on a volunteer basis. We all do little things to help out. George and David are two of our coaches. Terry's on here as well. He's one of our coaches. Tracy does our intake coordination. Rosalinda's responsible for outreach. We have Dan, who he's doing translating videos from this format over to our YouTube and website. So we have a lot of little things that need to get done, but we welcome additional help. So if you'd like to be an organizer, reach out to one of the people that I just name dropped there, and we can share with you how you can become part of the organization. And then, of course, the last way that you can participate is to just attend the meetings on Wednesday, bring somebody along with you, share the organization, and participate and ask really good and thoughtful questions of our presenters and help them get to where they want to be. I already went through pretty much most of our organizers here. There's a couple that are not on the call today that I didn't mention. Chrissa, William, who else isn't here? I think that's pretty much it. Everybody else is here today. I want to thank our sponsors. We have quite a few. We have Muddy Dog Roasting Company, who provides our coffee at our in-person meetings. American Underground, who provides our space for our in-person meetings. Hopefully we'll be going to that sooner than later, but you know, never know with COVID what's going to happen. We have GTI. We have Imperative Product Operations. We have Soto IP, NC Idea, Wise Insights, and New York Life. And I might be missing one or two. I apologize because I'm doing this from memory. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our presenter. We got Lisa Leath from WorkTok. Lisa, go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you for being
good morning,
here.
everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And why don't you tell us a little bit about WorkTok?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Moving slowly here. Okay, everything looks good to you guys?
Yep, let's go.
All right, wonderful. All right, thank you again for having me. My name's Lisa Leath, and about 8 months ago, I founded a tech startup called WorkTok. It's an app that promotes employee engagement for today's world. The simple to use app has been developed mainly in North Carolina, but also in Pennsylvania. And it went live in March on Apple and Google Store, so we're brand new. People want to know how it's different than other tools like Slack and Zoom and Teams, and the good news is it is different. So we need to focus on explaining that succinctly. We'll need to get sales and subscribers to prove that this tool is useful and there's demand for it, and we really believe there's a potential in a number of different verticals after doing demos. So addressing the different markets with the most potential is going to be very important for our success, which is naturally followed by well-planned growth, solid performance, supported by technical capabilities for the growing base of subscribers that we're getting. We need to develop more sales and marketing plans, as well as focus on our continued ease of use, which is really our main differentiator right now. So the problem is disconnection, and managers often don't open the door for employee feedback, which is proven to get employees to stick around at companies. And WorkTok allows employers to stay in touch with their employees on a repeated basis through exchange of a regular set of questions, pushed out via this mobile app that has an interface that's extremely easy to use. The questions are designed to measure how the employee's day, week, or month is progressing, and basically identify any kind of concerns and go ahead and address them. So talks or check-ins, employee check-ins, can really be modified to fit any number of different work-related subjects. So I want to spend the majority of my time talking about where we are, plans, and what's needed here from this community. So we make money by getting seats per month. It's pretty straightforward. We're earning media in North Carolina and Pennsylvania, where our core focuses right now during the beta phase. And we recently won an award out here in Wilmington for emerging company. Small business with no employee engagement app was really, or tool was really our focus target market from the beginning, but the product is really getting a lot of interest from mid-sized to larger organizations with managers who need help and direction and communicating with employees about things like mood and morale, goal alignment, professional development. So we need to figure out how, at which market to enter. But I'm excited to think about all the different possibilities in the school districts right now faced with remote learning, at least probably for the good part of the year. And then also hospitals and healthcare providing organizations where the frontline workers are really experiencing fatigue. And this is a big focus for the healthcare industry right now. So both of those verticals obviously have hoops to jump through. And HR departments, I'm an HR person, they're rarely the ticket in. So if anybody has ideas on how to get into public or private schools or small or large healthcare organizations, I'm all ears. Right now we're beta testing with users from industries across technology, academia, professional services, blue collar workers, and also consultants. And so there may be an opportunity later to place our app out there to access all different kind of verticals on different kind of marketplaces where other employee engagement options are available, but they're oftentimes overcomplicated and very expensive for a majority of clients. So the platform has the potential really, in my mind, to dominate a space that other employee engagement platforms do not play in because it's simple and it's affordable. And with the market twisting towards a more decentralized workforce, we're having to use novel ways basically to engage with our talent to get them to stick around and have a positive employee experience. So our plans are, number one plan is to keep it simple. And so this becomes hard the more people that we're talking to and they say, hey, can you do this with WorkTok? Yes. Hey, can you do this? We need to really make sure that our focus sticks to the original plan of employee engagement and one-to-one feedback with supervisors and employees. We also need to get through the viability stage. And so, we have some technical perfections to develop before we get to that 100,000 seat client, but that is our every intention, is to be able to service very large subscribing organizations. So private, public, I think, there's going to be a lot of interest in WorkTok because it is so versatile and relevant, especially right now. It's all about instant feedback for individuals in an organization that rarely get it. And so with our current workforce, that's imperative. So what we need is a really strong message for differentiating this app. So it really becomes a no-brainer for people. And one concept that we've come up with, just to give you an idea, because I'd love to get your feedback, is this 21st century response to managed by walk-around. So a lot of people are familiar with Gemba. And so it's sort of like, the 21st century Gemba. We really need connections to people who might find this tool instantly valuable in their organization to gain greater commitment, productivity, and also retention with their employees, so we can continue to prove viability of the app in the market. And so, we got to access decision makers for demos and ultimately pilots or full subscriptions in, hopefully our focus right now will be school districts and healthcare. And then finally, some good advice on developing a pro forma that's useful for sales projections. This will need to help us make decisions on how much capital we need, where to spend it, and when. So that's it. That being said, thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to the presenters to take and facilitate questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. So this is how we do the Q&A session in our virtual realm. You're going to send a private message to George, let him know you have a question. He's going to put you in queue. He's going to call people in order. When it is your turn, George will let you know. Please turn on your microphone, and if you have the ability to, go ahead and turn on your camera as well, ask the question. And if you have a brief follow-up, that's okay, but we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask Lisa questions. If you are not currently asking a question, please be sure to keep your microphones on mute. So George, do we have anybody in the queue already for questions?
Well, Jim made a comment. Jim Roberts made a comment. You want to elaborate on that, Jim?
So there's an article in CBS that a high number of teachers are considering retiring versus going back into a physical school with the COVID happening. And, there's already a shortage of teachers. I can't tell you how many friends that I have that are former teachers and they're nowhere near their retirement age. So I think this is there's a need for this product. The challenge, of course, is how do you get into schools when they have 1,000 things going on? And frankly, we're so close to the start of school that, the purchasing may have already happened. So how would they, if anyone has suggestions on how they would sell into schools?
Thank you.
Alrighty. Anybody want to volunteer that? Any ideas how to get into schools? I've got some thoughts, but you and I, Lisa, can talk about that outside, because I think that's probably going to be a little bit more beneficial conversation in that type of format. Who's next, George?
You are.
I am. Excellent. Okay, so I have a number of different questions about this. So but first I want to get a basic understanding, like what is the type of questions that are being asked, and what is the type of information that you're trying to elicit from employees, and based on that, what is the benefit then to the businesses or the employers? Like what is the actual tangible benefit they get?
Yeah. So the tangible benefit should be better work performance, more discretionary effort, and retention. And that is supported by a lot of research, but the one piece of research that I constantly refer to is the IBM and WorkHuman research on employee experience. And it's really, really clear that those are the tangible things that cost businesses money. Again, performance, discretionary effort, retention, and the companies that focus on positive employee experience, soliciting feedback, giving employees recognition, giving them empowerment and voice. Those are the couple of things. There's 5 things that make people stick around, and that's supported by evidence. And so if you like your team, talking to employees is a good idea, because you'll get to keep your team and see financial outcomes.
And so what information are you eliciting from the?
So there are currently 11 talks, preloaded talk templates in the tool. However, by next week, we'll have double those amounts. Right now, we're asking things like, how are you feeling? Have you met or achieved your milestones since our last talk? Are you clear on what your priorities are? What kind of professional development activities would you like to explore? Are you planning any time off? What help or support do you need from me, your supervisor? Do we need to follow up? We can customize all these things. We've got a morale template out there. Hey, how do you think we're doing around here with morale? Would you like to recognize any of your colleagues for a job well done? Let's see. Are you clear on, do you believe we're living our values? If you could choose one of the values that's most important in a new hire, which one would it be? So things, you could definitely tailor it to overall company connection, or you could tailor it to things that are maybe more specific to the times. So checking in on, different groups within your company. I know some companies have Society of Black Professionals, checking in with them with everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter, checking in with the LGBTQI community about things that matter in their community right now. So, diversity and inclusion is a huge initiative with companies, rightfully so. So asking the sensitive questions that people are oftentimes afraid to ask. But if they're asked in a legal compassionate way that's authored by an HR professional, you can feel comfortable soliciting feedback about those sensitive topics.
Checking in with parents who potentially have school-age children who are trying to, help them with their online classes.
I mean, so honestly, with the school districts, I could see WorkTok being extremely valuable, from the superintendent checking in with principals who are working remote and sometimes have to come into the school, checking in with support staff, like the janitors, like the TAs that sort of are a little bit disconnected from the plan. Principals checking in with teachers who are now having to, develop their curriculum into a completely new format. And how are they doing with that? And do they want to quit? And how could you actually, it's almost like a stay, you could turn it into a regular stay interview. What would it take to get you to stay versus you're thinking about leaving and going and coaching people privately for double the money? I mean, so, and then to your point, staying in touch, teachers staying in touch with parents. We're not going to be able to have regular parent teacher conferences, and we're just living in a different world right now where we're having to do remote learning facilitation. And how's that going for you? And is there anything as a teacher I can do to help you?
Hey, thanks, Dominic. We got a
Yep.
bunch of questions lined up. Jim Varner's next.
Thank you, George. Hi, Lisa. A couple of questions I have. One is around the development of your app. Were you able to do it yourself, or did you outsource it locally in the Wilmington area to get some of that, or did you hire somebody?
Yeah, so we contracted with PS Solutions, which my partner here, Wayne, is on the phone. And so all the development was done in North Carolina and Pennsylvania.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And the second question is, how are you marketing this, or how are you getting the message out to the various communities, schools, or otherwise businesses that this is available and these tools are out there ready to use?
Yeah. So right now, social media is my friend, and building our base of folks that are following just from a brand recognition perspective. Earned media has also been our friend recently. We've had a number of different articles in Wilmington and Altoona in the Pittsburgh area published about WorkTok. And then using connections, personal connections, and asking, people within my network for also warm connections. That's really been the way that we've been doing this. So for instance, I reached out to a woman that I used to work with. She now works for the New Hanover County School District, and we have a demo tomorrow. So the more times I can get it in front of people with a demo that's customized, I try to set it up and customize it to their type of organization. That seems to be very helpful. So like for tomorrow at the school district, I'll make sure that I give her a couple of examples of principal to teacher, teacher to parent, school board to principals.
Hey, thanks, Jim.
Super, thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Dave Bates is next, and he usually has not only a question, but also some suggestions.
Well, Lisa and I have had a chance to talk a couple of times already. So, but I guess one of the things is in regard to making a decision across industry verticals. I mean, that's a tough thing. We only have 6 minutes to really hear kind of where you're at. But this kind of goes to the previous comment about school systems having a lot going on right now. And the question I'm curious about it, do you know the top 3 things for your ideal client that the change that they're already trying to get made, right? So it's really amorphous to talk about employee engagement and discretionary contribution and kind of thing like that. I mean, that's pretty specific to people who understand HR, but they're still very broad concepts, right? So if I say I have this problem where my scores are this and I need them to be that, do you know for the healthcare organizations that you want to go after, or for the school systems very specifically, that if you implement this, here's how it will help you change that?
Yes. So the good news is most school systems and hospital organizations or healthcare organizations do employee engagement surveys. So you can, if they will give you that information, that's like a super win, and we can start making a difference with WorkTok right away. But I would say in general, as an HR professional, top 3 reasons that you would want to use something like WorkTok is surprise attrition. So you aren't able to anticipate and prevent, flight risk with employees. That's number 1. Number 2, poor customer experience. So if you're getting, and a lot of us do a great job soliciting, patient experience, and school districts right now are doing a ton of surveys with parents to see what do you want in the upcoming grading period. So I think, if customers are increasingly reporting poor quality of experience, disengagement typically reflects in how your employees interact with their customers. And then thirdly, low employee referrals. So if you have like an employer referral program, which most of these larger organizations do, if you're not getting referrals, that probably means that your workforce doesn't really feel all that engaged enough to recommend others to your workplace. So I would say surprise attrition, poor customer experience, low employee referrals would be my top 3.
So just to follow up on that, I'm with you on that. I understand that. I hear that from every HR professional. But if the HR professionals, as you mentioned before, aren't the route in, the question is, what does the superintendent care about? So if you ask the superintendent to tell you without leading them into that, what will they tell you their problem is? What will the person who is the person that's going to stroke the check in the healthcare place, what will they tell you the big 3 things are? And they may be different than what you as an HR pro know. And that's the question. It's like, how can you find out what those top 3 things are for the people that are going to stroke the check?
Yeah. So the good news is, in my daily life, I work with about 50 different clients right now that always tell me surprise attrition is a problem. And that was really the catalyst for the architecture of WorkTok in the first place. So, and attrition matters to comptrollers because it costs money. I mean, look, the average turnover rate to go out and hire people and interview and bring them to town and then retrain them and have a 6 to 12 month ramp up time is 30% of the annualized salary. So if you want to win the hearts of the comptrollers and the controllers and the VPs of finance and the CFO, which are usually how I get in the door on my HR consulting business, you got to talk about attrition and what that costs the business in general. So I would say surprise attrition is usually number 1.
Thanks, Dave. Dan is next up. Dan Hepworth.
Hi, Lisa. Great presentation. I have 2 questions. The first is, I'm curious if it's in your product roadmap to integrate with Slack, because I use Slack a lot, and I know there's a lot of different apps you can download that mesh well with your existing communities on Slack. So one that comes to mind is this app called Donut, where it helps workers connect virtually, where it pairs 2 people each week for a virtual chat, and it's very successful. It raised several million in funding. The second question is, I'm curious what the backstory is behind the name. When I first heard WorkTok, I thought TikTok for work, and I feel like there could be some confusion there.
So first of all, thanks for mentioning about Slack. There's actually an opportunity, probably we have to further explore it before we do put it in the product roadmap, but to also to explore getting a link with Slack, getting a link with Teams, potentially even getting a link with Zoom, WebEx, all of the face-to-face applications that now all these remote workers are going to be using. I'll definitely go look up Donut. I appreciate you mentioning that. That sounds pretty cool. It's almost like a peer mentor app is what it sounds like. I'd love to look into that. Yes, there's also a huge opportunity, as I mentioned in the presentation, about linking up with marketplaces. So if you think about big time payroll providers, ADP, Paylocity, Paychecks, you name it, Bamboo HR, blah, 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 Workday, PeopleSoft, there's a big opportunity. They each have marketplaces where clients can go out and say, hey, I'm having these issues. Let me go do an add-on module to my payroll provider. We may want to be on those marketplaces. So it's a similar kind of, we need to figure out what our partnership strategy looks like there. As far as, so that's something that we have to tease out for sure. But as far as how we came up with the name, we actually put it out there on, it's like a freelance website. I forget what you call it. It was almost like not crowdfunding, but crowd design, where we got over 3,000 submissions for a name, for a logo, for a slogan, and then we basically crowdsourcing. Thank you, Jim. I know you know. But we kind of whittled it down and then took a survey with some folks in our network and came up with WorkTok. We love it. We were really happy we could get the domain name. We got we got a good logo going on. I think we're pretty happy. I agree there could be some confusion, but if TikTok goes away for the US, then it paves way for WorkTok.
That's a good one. So James, you're queued up. Would you like to reinforce your question or ask a follow-up?
I think it was going to be word for word what Dan said about the Slack and Teams integration. So
cool, thank you.
Yep.
So Lisa, can you remind everyone of what your ask is, what you'd like from this community, what we can do, what can we do as a community to help you?
Yeah, so again, it's sort of back to, if you have a good idea on how to, especially with the public school system, everything's through the budget, through this, through the county, through the state, if you have a good idea for me, and if you want to chat offline about it, like Dominic said, I would really look forward to that, about getting into these school districts now before the school starts. I think especially maybe some charter schools or private schools that are more open or agile and able to make quick decisions. That may be a interesting topic to talk about with any of you that have good ideas there on how to get in and access decision makers. Also, any connections that you have with companies that you think might be good to talk to. I always appreciate that. We love making new friends. And then I think where we, just like a lot of brand new businesses, will continue to spend a lot of time and would look for any help or advices on developing a really solid pro forma and trying to figure out, okay, if we do raise capital, or if we get these couple of grants, if we get a $10,000 grant, what are you going to do? If we get a $50,000 grant, what are we going to do? 75, 150, $1 million bucks, what do we do with it? So helping us to, not so much telling us what to do with the money, but more if you have a good framework or can point us in the right direction for how to get started on creating a great pro forma, that would be very helpful.
So you've mentioned, I'm going to ask my question, which is, you mentioned schools over and over again.
Yep.
And my sense is that schools and school systems are not necessarily the fastest acting organizations in the country. You've also talked about big companies, the 100,000 seat companies. They're not usually the most fast acting enterprises in the country.
Yeah.
Have you looked at smaller, more nimble companies, although perhaps they don't need the connection, but if you looked at smaller companies that might be more nimble and might be able to jump on your platform more quickly?
Yes. So most of our beta subscribers, with the exception of UNCW, are smaller organizations. And actually a hospital system is trying it out now. But the answer is yes. However, here's the problem. It's not a problem. It's just a concern for growth and scale would be, we're trying to keep it so inexpensive. We're trying to keep it extremely cost effective. Again, so it's a no-brainer for companies. So that the smaller seat subscribers, if we get the quantity, awesome. But the smaller seat subscribers really don't generate a ton of money. So, that was our original thought, was to go after this small market that can make quick decisions. But from a business standpoint, I don't know that that's the right focus.
Well, focusing on smaller market companies can certainly help you generate proof of concept, which is important to getting to the larger companies.
Right.
So, the money doesn't necessarily come right away. You want to, you have to take certain steps. So getting in where you can may be more important than getting to the most profitable place first.
Okay. Yep.
Hey, Dan's got a follow-up question.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask a follow-up question in regards to the strategy of approaching schools. I was curious if colleges are on your radar. I think that compared to high schools and like other public schools, they have a lot more money and a lot more people. You know, colleges are basically their own ecosystem. I go to Duke, and it's a huge place with, you know, dining employees, health employees, professors, admin, so many other people that could benefit from, you know, better like work relations, especially given how bureaucratic colleges are.
Yes. I got to give a shout out to UNCW Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. They have been amazing beta testers and great connectors to the UNCW campus. So we're talking to a couple of folks over there right now in leadership positions. But to your point, I completely agree. Even yesterday, I was talking with UNCW about what about students that go abroad? How do we kind of like always check in with them and make sure they feel connected back to their home base at, you know, be it UNCW or Duke or wherever? How do we, could there be an opportunity to connect with folks that are students that are out on internships during the summer? And could we also measure which companies are our best intern and co-op hosts and help coach those that aren't getting great scores with WorkTok? There's also an opportunity to potentially like track project and timelines with grant writing within university departments. There's an opportunity for deans to stay connected with the professors as they're hosting classes remote. So I would love to get connected with universities. And I will say one thing, we got access to the security guidelines and like IT overall guidelines as far as cloud hosting and everything from UNCW, and we were in compliance with all of their guidelines. So I feel confident and comfortable meeting with universities and colleges to discuss WorkTok and how it could best support universities, because I feel like we're good to go from, you know, a back office standpoint there.
I'm going to jump in. Lisa, I want to ask you, with regards to this beta testing at UNCW, it seems like that's a great in for you to validate and to learn and to get what you need. What are the metrics and what does success look like to UNCW, and how are you in relation to that? Are you meeting certain things? Are there some areas where you're falling behind in it? You think if you could get better, it would make it more interesting that they would turn you on to their, you know, parent school, so forth?
So they are giving us weekly feedback, and that has been very helpful in beta. We've made some tweaks to the way that notifications, you know, I'm going to start to get technical here, and David, I don't want to go off of David's guidelines here, but I'll just say that we've made some technical tweaks, like the way people get notified, both employees and supervisors. We've made tweaks on, let's see, some of the question templates. We've opened up comments as of the 10th on Monday. And so they have been excellent and have used the app for project management and for internship feedback throughout the summer. Success to them, gosh, you know, I'm gonna have to go back and really ask them what success with WorkTok looks like. I think that's a really great point. It's sort of been like fighting fires and discussing, is this something that's going to be good for you, or is this something that's going to be good for any organization that subscribes to WorkTok? And so the fixes that we've made in beta with them have been fixes that we think will be applicable to all organizations. But I love that, and I want to thank you for that, and I'm going to take it back to them and talk today. What is success look like for UNCW?
Thanks, Ray. It's a great suggestion.
Yep.
Just a reminder, if you want to ask a question or make a suggestion, send me a chat so we can keep people who've been waiting to ask their questions. Cindy's next. So Cindy, why don't you jump in?
Hey, Lisa, great
Hi.
presentation. I enjoyed that. One of the things that I spent way too many years doing was working with a consulting firm. And we did very similar stuff in terms of trying to make sure when we had installed new metrics or whatever, that people were actually doing what we said and the supervisor was following up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
One of the markets that I haven't heard you mention, and I'd be more than happy to help you or look at it with you after this or whatever, is consulting firms. This would be huge for them to have something like this where they could, basically market it and install it, and maybe you even, to some degree, you might even want to white label it for them, because especially now that you have a distributor workforce, it's not as easy to go to somebody's desk and say, how's things going?
Right.
So I don't know whether you had thought about that market. I hadn't heard you mention it. But if you could partner with some of those, they already have the ends into those large companies.
Yes, and I agree. And there's not been a large focus. I have one consulting firm, small, doing beta testing for me. And then I've done a couple of demos. Actually, one lady was in Australia and just last week, and trying to figure out, going back to my partners and saying, what would that partnership actually look like? Because we'll need to figure that out before we go and sign a contract with somebody. But I love that idea. These are people that already believe in positive employee experience and all the things that WorkTok is meant to help organizations understand about their employees. So if you have any further ideas, I'd love to connect with you for a virtual coffee. I think that'd be amazing.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Jim knows me. And he knows where to get me.
All right. Hey, Dominic has a follow-up question.
Yeah. So you talked about a message of differentiation. Who is your competition in this space? I heard you mention specifically the workplace surveys. Is there anybody else in this market in technology, or is that your direct competition? What is cost comparison? What is your competitive advantage?
Yeah, so there are all different kinds of performance management softwares out there that include employee check-ins as a component of their total platform. So, there's probably 1,000 out there. Here's the deal. WorkTok is such a small sliver of the performance management wheel. And most of the wheel usually just gets completely ignored except for annual performance reviews, of which we all go don't want to do them. For the last 15 years, my advice to every manager, it doesn't matter if it's a small company or the Fortune 300 company I worked for 10 years, it's if you check in with your employees regularly, sit down, ask them how they're doing, build rapport with them and trust, chances are it's going to drive loyalty to you and to the company. So WorkTok is different in the sense that it focuses only on that individual communication versus check-ins, 360 feedback, quarterly reviews, annual reviews, company goals, division goals, team goals, and it's just individual conversation. And so that is the differentiator. Now, how do you package that all up into a cute little elevator speech that's just I'm all about one-liners? And so we got to figure out how to pack a punch, tell people what this is right up front and why it is different. It's certainly not meant to replace face-to-face communications. Always, that should be number one for supervisors and their employees, or any kind of leader and their folks. But this is just sort of an app that will help fill the gap when you cannot be face-to-face, or you're just simply not doing it because you're busy putting out fires every day. So yes, there are other competitors, but the check-in piece of the performance management puzzle is such a small piece. And so clients are having to pay for this full suite of performance management tools, of which hardly any of them ever get used. And so you're overpaying, and it's not sustainable because you're not using it. So hopefully this will be a very usable, sustainable tool for companies at a really affordable price.
Hey, Lisa, thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who asked the question. We're going to stop the Q&A right now because we don't have any more in the queue. But If something else comes to mind, Lisa's going to stick around after the meeting is formally over, and we'll have an opportunity to have just an unmoderated chit chat. And I know, Lisa, your video is going to disappear. Before you drop from the meeting, if you want to capture the chat, because I know people put some suggestions and links in there, please do that.
Thank you.
And Dominic is going to take us to the end of the meeting with some community announcements, and then we're going to end the formal meeting and go to an informal chat.
Okay, so yeah, as George said, we got community announcements. The same format that we do with Q&A. If you would like to announce something to the community, either you have an event, you have some kind of philanthropic ask of the community, you want to give us an update on a class you're teaching, or a something that's exciting that happened with your business, a success that you've had this week, love to hear that. Just send George a message, let him know that you've got something to announce to the community, and we will get you in line for that. I'll go ahead and jump on and let you know that we have there's a Rockstar Connect virtual networking event going on tomorrow evening from 7 to 8 p.m. If you would like to jump on that and just do some casual networking with folks, get introduced, maybe make a nice connection that could potentially help your business, go ahead and go to rockstarconnect.com to check out the details of that event. I will be moderating that as well. Do you have any announcements, George?
Well, I don't, but Jim Roberts does.
Sure thing, Jim.
Hello, everybody. NC Idea is one of the sponsors of 1 Million Cups, and they have just reopened their fall 2020 grant for seed and micro grant. So the seed grant is $50,000, and they are taking applications now. The beauty of this grant is that it is non-dilutive, meaning they don't take any equity in your company for the $50,000. There's also a $10,000 grant for a smaller or maybe a younger idea that's not as far as long. The reason I talk about this is I'm one of the reviewers for the grant, so I'm in the room when all the other reviewers kind of pick the top 5 or top 6 per application time. So if you know anyone that should apply, please let them know. It's very, very competitive with over 125 per session. So they really have to work hard to make their application the best. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jim. That's great. That's it, Dominic, for community announcements.
Okay, well, just one other for me then. I want to thank everybody who has told people in your circles about 1 Million Cups. Starting to see a lot of new faces and new regular faces coming to the group. We've also seen the response in an uptick in applicants for presenters recently. So I'm really happy about that. And I also want to thank all of our community organizers for the work that they've done in outreach and helping get presenters to come and apply to present. So thank you to that. Just keep them coming. Just let folks know if they have an idea and they want to get feedback on it. This is a great place to be. Also, if they've got they've got a business and they've got a presentation that they have ready and they want feedback on that, this is a great friendly place also to practice. And with that, we're done. We'll see you all next week on Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's 1 Million Cups. Bring your coffee.